Welcome to the YouTube interview series, The Effects of the COVID-19 Virus on the Arts and Beyond. My name is Brian Murphy. This next story has a lot more personal to me. The arts in Akron, where I'm from, has supported my career for as long as I've been here, for 25, 30 years. So I have a very personal space, feel very connected, not only because I'm from here, because the city of Akron and the people and the leaderships of Akron has provided a resource for me to be able to dance here for many, many years. Our next guest, he's a very special guest, somebody I've known for a long time. He has had impact on the Akron arts. He has been instrumental in giving opportunities like me to be able to be a performer. Mr. David Lieberth. He is the former deputy mayor and historian. Hi, Dave.
Hello, Brian. It's nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
I've known you since before you had chin whiskers.
Yes, we have known each other that long, and
I'm sure you were shaving when I first.
I don't think so. That's how long it's been, and I have, and through the years, like I said in my intro, I have, I guess, been rewarded the opportunity to be able to perform in this area as long as I have, based on your leadership in Akron. And one of the main ones, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the Heinz Bowl Festival. How many years has that festival been going?
Well, we started the festival in 2007, the year after Ohio Ballet collapsed. The City of Akron was the largest single sponsor of Ohio Ballet in the year 2006. But that was the year that the business model for dance had really changed all over the country, and it closed. So we began the Heinz Bowl Festival in 2007, not only as a tribute to the artistic director of Ohio Ballet, but also to continue a tradition that this year will enter its 46th year, which is free, professional dance for the public in a public setting, our parks during the summer.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And you can't even count how many people have seen that show. Generations have been part of that. So that's a tribute.
We believe we're the only place in the United States where we've had this long tradition, and each year we bring together about 1,000 people each night on the lawn of one of our parks to watch professional dance.
And we have up to 4 weekends, so it's a 4,000 per summer.
Only 3 weekends this year.
Oh, 3 weekends, okay.
One of the impacts of the COVID-19 has been that the city's budget has been terribly affected. And so although the mayor supports dance this summer, it'll be 3 weekends instead of 4.
It will be. So let's talk about that impact beyond dance, okay? And you've seen the growth of the arts in Akron. How do you feel this is going to impact that growth? How do you think it's going to impact the growth?
I think clearly what we have is a network and a community of performing artists. And sometimes we don't think about the people who support those artists. Now, you're a performer, so you know that you don't go on stage alone, that there's 10 guys and women behind the stage who are doing the lighting and the sound and the setup and the laying of the marley floor and all of those things that dancers require. So we have a whole support staff that has been impacted by this COVID-19 virus as well. Having suspended essentially all the performing arts for at least the last month and possibly for a month or two more has had tremendous economic impact on the individual artists and the crews that have supported them. I hope we get back.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's it.
Okay, so yeah, I hope we get back also. You know, and you have seen the support of the arts through foundations, patrons, through the city of Akron. How are they responding to this, or how do you think they're responding to all of this? And are they going to kind of hold on to their money when they come back? Are they going to, or do you feel like they're going to keep going at full support?
I think we have a good foundation community in Akron, and the foundations, the principal ones, the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, the GAR Foundation, PEGS Foundation, the Corbin Foundation have all been terribly supportive of the arts, and in recent years have been more than that. They've played a leadership role in providing what is going to be funded in the arts, not telling people what art is, but reaching out and making certain that there is a stable network. We have Arts Now in Akron, which was founded in about 2015. It's in its fifth year under Nicole Mullet. And prior to that, there had been many attempts to have arts organizations coalesce around a common mission. Most recently, it was the Akron Area Arts Alliance, which had a number of members, mostly visual artists, but also some performing artists as well. But I went back into our history archives and found that in 1960, there was something that was called the Greater Akron Arts Federation. It had 15 members to it, organizations, institutions that tried to get together and support the arts as a group. When Arts Now was formed and had the benefit of a landscape study that GAR had supported, the number of entities on their list that they had contacted in one way or another, and that includes not only arts groups, but individuals, 600. And so we now have this network of individual performers like yourself, companies like Groundworks or Verb that you've danced with, and we have large entities such as the Akron Art Museum, the Akron Symphony, Tuesday Musical, which is 130 years old. And so it is a real coalition that has, for the first time, really registered its place in the community in a way that never had before. You know, I'm writing this history of the University of Akron right now, as I told you. It's its sesquicentennial year. And in the course of looking at the arts portion of the university, Akron was very much a cultural wasteland in the early part of the 20th century. I mean, we were making tires like crazy. We were the fastest growing city in the United States, but there was really no cultural entities to speak of other than what Mrs. F.A. Seiberling, Gertrude Seiberling, had put together and the Tuesday Musical Association. And these were individual upper class people of the management class who were sort of satisfying themselves. But in terms of public art, there was virtually nothing. So Akron has developed over the years. In the 1940s and 50s, we had an art museum that had a permanent place to exhibit and started offering classes. But really the real impact has just been in the last decade, I would say. And that bodes well for the future.
And that's my next segue. You've talked the Arts Now, 600 organizations and individuals and groups. We all have to be creative in how we are going to reach to our audience. It's just going to have to be. In your experience, in order to keep that funding, how do you see us doing that? I mean, we're going to be going all for this money, and we've been funneling for the same money here. Do you think that we're going to have to think more community, more so than even 2 months ago?
Well, clearly the big foundations, GAR and Knight and PEGS, have rewarded arts groups that have found ways to collaborate. The Akron Symphony, for example, put Groundworks Dance Theater and the University of Akron Dance Institute on stage with them. They collaborate with student musicians. Christopher Wilkins has brought in music groups from the New Hmong community on North Hill, for example. And so there has been this tendency in the last 5-6 years, for sure, led by GAR and Knight, to say to artists, you're better when you work together. We can fund you better when you work together. And so going it alone is really tough at this point in time. back when that Akron Area Arts Federation was formed in 1969, those 15 organizations really saw each other not so much as partners, but as competitors. I mean, they were all after the same thing. They wanted to develop arts audiences, but they were all going after the same donors. They were all going after the same institutional sponsors, and were jealous very often of people who would succeed and if they would not. Now that lasted for probably the next 20 or 30 years, but in the last decade, there certainly has been this constant transition to saying, how do we work together? How do we view this as a community asset? And the result has been that arts are now, I would say, firmly entrenched in the community. And I've been part of an initiative to make certain that the business community is also a part of that. Arts now has a branch dealing with that, an initiative. And that has been transformative, I would say, in terms of where we stand right now. This COVID-19 thing came out of the blue. Nobody expected it. Nobody expected any gig employment, and especially artists, to suffer as a result of some sudden, this hurricane, this tsunami that came through.
Yes.
But that's what's happened. Suddenly, everything was shut down, and small bands and groups of musicians who were doing gigs suddenly were without income at all. And it has impacted the Akron Symphony and the Art Museum, which have shut down essentially their public persona until this thing levels out and we see what's going to happen.
And all that, what you were just talking about for the last 10 years, it's almost like prepared us for this moment, because it created a strategy of collaboration. There's the organizations are strategizing, and now it kind of forces us upon to look at a different strategy and to almost enhance that collaboration, enhance the working with other people. So it's almost we've been prepared for it. So I feel like we're in a better place if we didn't do that in the beginning. So that's important. Yeah, I think that's an important.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's exactly what's happened when you take an institution like the Akron Civic Theater, which began as low as in 1929. Today, Howard Parr is certainly one of the most collaborative individuals in the whole community in terms of reaching out to music and arts and other performing arts groups and visual artists as well, which he'll host at various events within the confines of the Civic. And so what we have here is a great infrastructure for art that is much larger than the community itself. We have more cultural assets for a community our size than most cities our size.
Yes.
The one thing that people forget, and this goes to the performing arts, when we opened Lock 3 in 2003, we asked ourselves the question, who's within a 45-minute drive? Because that's about what people will do if they're going out for an evening. So, you'll drive 45 minutes to see a concert. You probably won't drive an hour and a half, or 2 hours, but you'll drive 45 minutes on a regular evening. And so if you put a pin in the ground at the corner of Main and Market Street in downtown Akron and circumscribe a circle of that 45-minute drive, you have 3 million people within that circle. Now, if you put that same pin in the ground at 9th and Euclid in downtown Cleveland, you've got 3 million fish, perch, and
yes, true. We are right central. I love fish, but we don't have the people. Yes, we are central.
What that means for us, though, is that we actually have a better entertainment market in Akron than Cleveland does in terms of the number of people who we can reach within that 45-minute drive, a live entertainment market.
Yes, and the live entertainment has been
Playhouse Square.
Yes,
but we have assets here that make us desirable as an arts community.
And over the Lock 3 open to now, I how many of hundreds of artists have come in and out of that Lock 3. You have 20 weeks worth of artists that come
Yeah.
in the summertime.
More importantly, we've had probably over 3 million visitors
Yeah.
since 2003, and that's summer and winter numbers combined. That's an asset that didn't exist prior to 2003, when Mayor Plisquellic had the vision for bringing free entertainment to the public in a way that we hadn't done before, and frankly, Cleveland hadn't done before, and Columbus hadn't done before. We actually led those other cities in offering that free entertainment for our residents and visitors.
And just to kind of finish off this conversation, is important leadership. I think that the mayor, he's been on board of the arts since he's been in there, and leader from that point all the way down, the community has just followed suit. And when I wrote down strategy, I wrote that down because I think that we've created that strategy so people can look at Akron and how we have strategized over the last 10 years. Let's say there's a city that hasn't been able to, they're going to have to sit down and do it. They can look at Akron as doing it in an affordable way, because right now they're going to have to. So we've created a framework that could be kind of implemented in different parts of the country, because it's really about the community. And over the years, the community is getting bigger like this, and we're all working together to create a vibrant arts community. So
I can't disagree.
Okay. Before we finish this, I want to talk about what you're doing with your book. Talk about maybe a little bit more what the book is about, and
well, it's not going to be a book. It's going to be a video series.
Oh, okay. Sorry, video series. Okay.
Yeah. I did a book right when I left the mayor's office in 2013 about the last 30 years of Akron's history, and have written 2 other books since. But this is a video series celebrating the University of Akron's sesquicentennial. Its 150th year is this year, 2020. And it has this rich history that most people really don't know a lot about. So I'm hoping to reveal some things to folks who are newer residents and newer to the community, who just don't know what an incredible history we've had here. That's true about Akron in general. We have so many rich assets for a city our size. Much of it stems from the fact that for much of the 20th century, we had 5 Fortune 500 companies headquartered in Akron. Columbus had none. Cincinnati had 1, Cleveland had 1, Akron had 5. And so part of our legacy is that we have this very diverse, welcoming community that came about as a result of our being headquarters for 5 international companies. And so although our economy is in the doldrums at the moment, I think it will recover. It was doing well. I would say that Mayor Horgan has continued his support of the arts in a big way as well, especially the visual arts in many ways, and performing arts. And so I think we're, again, poised for whatever is next. But I'm one of those people who take the long view of history, and I don't believe life will ever be quite the same after we're out of this. I think life will be different for us in numerous ways.
I would agree. It doesn't have to be all bad either. We would just have to more look at it as just a change. We're just doing a shift to another way.
I'm hoping that for the Heinz Poll Festival this year, which we are planning on doing,
yes,
July 31st, I'm hoping that one of our choreographers will figure out maybe this is you, Brian, will figure out a very fine piece utilizing face masks and social distancing in a whimsical tribute.
That's a deal. No, that's a deal. That's a deal. That's a deal. So Mr. Dave Lieberth, he is a former deputy mayor and historian. What a great pleasure. Thank you very much for sharing your history and knowledge.
Thank
you very much. You guys have a good day, Dave. Appreciate it. Thank you. We'll revisit this again. Okay.
Right.
All right. Okay. Bye-bye.